No one tells the story of the Senior Source more than those that rely upon its services each and every day. You've had the opportunity to meet 3 of the 25,000 individuals served each year that have either no or limited resources, all of whom need assistance right now. Many of you have been very generous to be here today, and we appreciate your support. As Carolyn mentioned, and I need to fill in one gap, if someone really wants the arrangement on your table and you need a second one, we've got some up here, so just come right ahead. We've been very fortunate to have raised over $800,000 at this event. Wouldn't it be great if we could kind of round that up to, say, $900,000? So you will find in your program a donation card. You can put cash in it, you can put a check in it, and you can write a credit card. So we've made it very, very easy. And the program looks like this, just in case you need to know that too. We've made it very easy for you. There'll be staff from the Senior Source that'll be at the doors when you leave that are ready to take that from you and put your contributions to work. And we are looking forward to seeing as many of those come in as we possibly can. The luncheon today has always been one that I have truly enjoyed, and it's always one that has been fun. So we want to continue that as you write your check or write down your credit card number. And so sit back and relax while you're doing it. Enjoy the show.
Let's see here. Oh, hi. Remember me? Dan Dallas. I think we met at that party a couple of weeks ago. It's good to see you. Well, I'm meeting George Schrader for lunch today. I know what you're thinking, and I agree. I took a gamble with what I wore, but George assures me he's finally embraced the whole business casual thing. Did you know that Cindy's is his favorite place to meet? Now, you might be thinking, George Schrader can make things happen over lunch at Cindy's? That deli next to the casket store? I know, but not all his meetings take place over lunch at Cindy's. Some are over breakfast. Anyway, back to today. I had to get here early. I didn't want to be late. I mean, you know George. Wait a minute. You don't know George Schrader? What, do you live under a rock or something? If you're going to live in Dallas, you have to know George. Heck, George is Dallas. I mean, he was with the city from 1966 to 1981, and a lot of what Dallas is today, and what it will be, actually, is because of him. No, seriously, sit down. I got a few minutes. Let me tell you about George. Okay, George Schrader was born in Kansas, the land of Dorothy, the Scarecrow, the Tin Man, and Leavenworth. Yes, Kansas, the Sunflower State, the largest suburb of Denver. Not much is known of George's youth except what the archaeologists found in the cave drawings. You know what? Let's forget that. Let's take a different approach. First of all, you see all this? I got graphs, charts, spreadsheets. I don't even have business with the guy today. I just wanted to say hi, but you can't just say hi to George. You have to say how high, and for how long, and why. When I got a big promotion back in '76, George gave me some goals, things to work on. I still have my list. It's right here. It does go on a little bit. But I tell you, the man's a paperwork junkie. I've always liked George, though. I mean, with all the changes that came about, it was an exciting time. I mean, sure, it meant putting in long hours. We heard rumors of people who actually saw their families during daylight hours and on weekends. But you didn't mind working your butt off when you saw the things that you were accomplishing, like building this. Now, while he was city manager, George was known for his frequent memos to the city council and his staff and the meter readers and the street sweepers and sanitation workers and the folks that worked in animal services. Honestly, if you walked through the doors of City Hall, you were a prime target for a GRS memo. The man does love paper. I swear, I think he's got stock in Olmsted Kirk. I know of one exception, though. It happened back when Anita Martinez was serving on the city council. He put the kibosh on her official city council stationery order. Of course, she wanted hers in pink. And while we're on this tour of George's accomplishments, you just cross the street from City Hall and you're here at the Central Dallas Library, which he helped make a reality. Now, George always carried two enormous briefcases, the contents of which were a mystery. Recently, he lent them to the library's exhibit on municipal madmen, and I've got them right here. Among other things, they unearthed a heavy starch French cuffed white shirt and a toothbrush, as George was and still is a fanatic about washing his teeth, as he calls it, and programs from each year the Kansas Jayhawks won the NCAA championship. You know, the big dance is in Dallas this year, and come April, who knows, perhaps we'll see a Jayhawk perched up on the tower of this landmark. Even though it's a Dallas icon, there's a lot most people don't know about Reunion. For one thing, Ray Hunt and John Scoville were just 29 and 25 when they came up with this idea. That's impressive. My kids are 29 and 25. The only lasting impression they've made is on my living room couch. And for another thing, Reunion might not have happened without George's innovation. He came up with a plan that resulted in the whole kit and caboodle. Now, Reunion recently had a little work done, a facelift. They've renamed the observation deck the Geo Deck. That's right, Geo. It's nice to see George got some recognition there. And George played a major role in this as well. There's no doubt that Dallas and Fort Worth had little love for each other back in the 1960s, but that didn't deter George from working with some tough-minded and suspicious Fort Worth officials to put together one of the world's greatest airports, DFW. Now, if you doubt that George had a tough battle on his hands, just remember the name of the Fort Worth mayor back then, Sharkey Stovall. Yeah. With all the exciting changes that are going on downtown these days, perhaps the one that gives us the biggest bragging rights is this. We are now home to the largest urban arts district in the nation. And you would think, and you'd think that everyone would have been in favor of developing an arts district in downtown Dallas. I mean, we all love art and music, right? Well, back then, George had to convince downtown property owners that museums and symphony centers are good for business. Their idea of an art district was to take the Texas Ranger statue from Love Field and put it in front of their building. Now, maybe we need to bring George out of retirement to work with the folks at the museum tower. George played a large role in developing all of these places and tons of other projects just as remarkable. Now, it was a busy time, and working for George was serious business. He could be quite intimidating. One time he called for an assistant to report to his office immediately. Now, what had this poor soul done to incur the wrath of George Schrader? Nothing. It turns out there was this lousy call during the SMU-Kansas game the night before. George had missed the game. He knew this guy had been there, and he wanted to know just what SMU had gotten away with this time. Well, wouldn't you know, there's David Miller and Donnie Berg, or a couple of SMU basketball stars from about that same time, sitting right here in front. Hey, George, you know, they may be 6'5", but I'm 5'6", and you're you. It's the same thing, only different. I think we could take them. Well, there you go. George does have a not-so-serious side. You seldom see it, but it's there. A lot of people don't know, for example, that he likes whitewater rafting, hang gliding, parasailing. He went peacock bass fishing on a tributary of the Amazon River. I don't even know what a peacock bass is. Oh, yeah, well, now I know. There it is right there. He went hunting on the YO Ranch with the cast of that old TV show, Petticoat Junction. I was there with him for that. Of course, I was hunting for Billy Joe, Betty Joe, or Bobby Joe. I wound up sitting with Uncle Joe most of the day. Just my luck. And a lot of people don't know that when the Senior Source celebrated its 50th anniversary, George was one of 50 over 50 to go on a skydive over Dallas. He was 80 years old at the time. Now, you'd think a man who helped create DFW Airport would know not to jump out of a perfectly good airplane. So he gets a little wild sometimes. But most of George's life has been driven by a very strong work ethic that he gained when he was young. I mean, as a child, he plowed fields, baled hay, hitched and harnessed horses. Yep, that's right. He was a cotton-picking, corn-shucking chicken plucker. Now, I want you to know it took a lot of courage and precise pronunciation to say that in front of 1,000 well-bred people. But above all, George was and is an Eagle Scout, Troop 19 Jayhawk Council. And that is George R. Schrader in a nutshell. He laid the groundwork for things that are happening now and things that will happen long after we're all gone. And hey, what do you know? I think I see him headed this way, so I'd better give the goals for Dan Dallas a quick once-over. You know what? It was great talking to you, and I'll see you around. Thank you all.
Dan, thank you for that background on George. We certainly appreciate it. Of course, it wasn't just buildings that soared under George Schrader's leadership. His greatest legacy may be fostering those around him to work as hard as he did, to share his dedication, to follow his footsteps in dedicating themselves to the community as he has. And we've all benefited. What a better city Dallas is today because of George Schrader. And so it is with great pleasure and utmost appreciation that we present George Schrader the 2013 Spirit of Generations Award.
Wow. Well, I've heard and I've seen a lot, and I admit that I've learned some things today. But I confess I enjoyed every bit of it. I've enjoyed this event, this day, this luncheon. But I know that it's a result of a mountain of work done by the co-chairs, Carolyn Miller and Kathy Helms, and their squads of volunteers, and they've been supported by the skilled and the experienced staff of Senior Source. And I thank them for it. And I wonder if you wouldn't agree that it's a good idea for us to interrupt this here and thank them all at one time, the co-chairs and the staff. Now, what I am is a product of the association and the relationships with scores and scores of people in my life over the years. And what I've been about has been with armies of these associates, persons who've shared the work, and a lot of times, as you may got the cue there, performed the work. Virtually nothing in my professional and in my volunteer work has been undertaken and performed by me alone. I've always had a lot of help. Now, I ask you to forgive me, and as I insist on acknowledging a number of these and presenting some of them to you. Barbara, my wife, my life, my booster, and my helper is at the table down here with the family. She's always with me, and she brought to me 2 children to be proud of, and 5 grandchildren, 5 to brag about. Daughter Cheryl Roses and husband Peter Roses and son Steve Ewing are at the table with Barbara somewhere out there. My first family, to whom I'm indebted, many of you knew. Many of you knew Mary Liz and Janice. They endured a lot, they sacrificed a lot, they helped a lot, but both lost their battles with cancer. My whole family lost battles with cancer. But they gave me a brother-in-law and 2 nephews. When they heard about the luncheon, they came from Kansas City to be here with me. My brother-in-law, John Stack, my nephew, Brian Stack, and his daughter, Kirsten, and my nephew, Doug Stack, and his wife, Laura. And I'm complimented that they would also be here. Also hearing of this were my cousins, Barbara Hess from Topeka, and Ellen and her husband, Dr. Gary Elliott, are here from San Antonio. Now, many of my former associates at the City of Dallas and my colleagues are here. And my bosses, the mayors and members of the City of Dallas councils accepted the risk and sometimes endured a lot of pain at our special ambitions for the city and our pioneering work. They coped with the urban crisis of the early 70s, and they ushered us with safety through the period of turmoil, and many of us have already forgotten about it. That period of civil disturbance, sometimes riots, strife that swept across other major cities from coast to coast, and I'm indebted to them immensely. My staff associates, many have arranged to be here to be with me once again. Now, they bet their future, and they placed their hopes and their professional ambitions in the city of Dallas and with me. They're super people. They were super performers. And to borrow some words of another, they've already honored me by letting me call them friends. And including among those are all six of my successors as city managers of Dallas. And they're here with me too it was my privilege to work with all of them. Now, my 160-year-old undergraduate alma mater, Baker University near Kansas City, has had over 60 years to put me out of mind. But they learned about this too, and university officials and alumni are here, and they have a table. Larry Klein, who I see almost every workday, my principal and my appreciated business partner and his wife, Judy, have complimented me with their presence. My church, my minister, my caretaker has been here today and complimented us by offering the invocation. My church has remembered this event in many ways. Members of my Sunday school class are in great number, are here. A couple of members from a couple of my breakfast clubs, one at Cindy's. They've complimented me with their presence too. I'm complimented enormously by your presence here in this ballroom for the presentation of the award, and I appreciate it very, very much. With all that appreciation, I appreciate the connection you've made with Senior Source. Senior Source has provided services to seniors and caregivers for over 50 years, have you heard? It stands by now to continue its services, maybe even to you and to me. And so I hope this connection that you've made today continues, and I urge you to do your part to maintain it. I'm enormously grateful to Senior Source for my selection for this very prestigious award. And I'm highly honored beyond your understanding of the honor that it is. And I'm overwhelmed by the honor of your presence in this lunch, for this luncheon and for this presentation. My thanks to Senior Source, and my thanks to all of you.
On behalf of the Board of Directors and the staff of Senior Source, I want to thank you again for joining us today. Please be safe in going back to your offices and to your homes, and we look forward to seeing you again next year. Thank you.
She's like a beautiful lady with a